Good morning, guys. Today we are going to review some literature we did in Term 1. Can you remember any books we read this year before lockdown started? I remember Mary Curie, the Young Scientist, and the Miracles on Maple Hill. So let's see what we can remember of each story. First up was Mary Curie, the Young Scientist. We know the genre is a biography because it was written about someone, right? The setting is in Poland and Europe, where she traveled all over, and it begins with her childhood. In the middle, it's how she grew up and her education, and in the end, she got her Nobel Prize, and unfortunately, she died. Okay? The summary of her life is that Mary Curie was a Polish-born physicist and chemist and one of the most famous scientists of her time. Together with her husband Pierre, she was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1903 and she went on to win another in 1911. Mary Skłodowska was born in Warsaw on 7 November 1867, the daughter of a teacher. In 1891, she went to Paris to study physics and mathematics at the Sorbonne, where she met Pierre Curie, professor of the School of Physics. They were married in 1895. The Curies worked together investigating radioactivity, building on the work of a German physicist, Röntgen, and the French physicist, Becquerel. In July 1898, the Curies announced the discovery of a new chemical agent called polonium. At the end of the year, they announced the discovery of another, radium. The Curies, along with Becquerel, were awarded the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1903. Pierre's life was cut short in 1906 when he was knocked down and killed by a carriage. Mary took over his teaching post, becoming the first woman to teach at Sorbonne, and devoted herself to continuing the work that they had begun together. She received a second Nobel Prize for Chemistry in 1911. The Curie's research was crucial in the development of the X-ray in surgery. During World War I, Curie helped to equip ambulances with X-ray equipment, which she herself drove to the front lines. The International Red Cross made her head of its radiological services, and she held the training course for medical orderlies and doctors in the new techniques. Despite her success, Mary continued to face great opposition from male scientists in France, and she never received significant financial benefits from her work. By the late 1920s, her health was beginning to deteriorate. She died on 4 July 1934 from leukemia, caused by the exposure to high-energy radiation from her research. The Curie's eldest daughter, Irene, was herself a scientist and a winner of the Nobel Prize for Chemistry. I hope you can remember all of that from the story we read back in Jan. Let's see what's next. And we have The Miracles on Maple Hill. It is a children's lit story set in Pennsylvania, the United States of America. And we know that in the beginning the dad comes home from war, in the middle there was miracles, and at the end we never really got there because of lockdown, but at the end the true miracles happen. So let's see, the summary of the story goes as follows. Molly's father just returned from the war. He was suffering from mood swings and depression and seemed to be tired all the time. Lee, Molly's mother, moves the family to Maple Hill, a town where the children's grandmother once lived, so that her husband, Molly's father, will not suffer as much as he would in the city. In Maple Hill, neighbors help each other when help is needed. They do not keep secrets from one another. The family is supported by a neighborhood couple, Mr. and Mrs. Chris, who make their living with maple syrup. Molly and her brother adapt to living in the country very well and eventually became happier there. their father's condition also improves tremendously. When Mr. Chris has a heart attack during sugaring time, remember I told you guys he was going to have a heart attack? I remember, okay? So he had a heart attack. Molly's family stepped forward to return the kindness that the Chris's had shown them. They collect the entire crop of sap and boil it down, but they are certain that they lack Mr. Chris's deft touch with making syrup. When Mr. Chris is allowed to return home, it is the moment of truth. Is their syrup as good as Mr. Chris's? Mr. Chris himself is unable to detect any difference. Marley reflects that the recovery of her father and Mr. Chris, the growing strength of bonds within her family, and the second chances for life and love are the true miracles of Maple Hill. So besides all the flowers and cows and beautiful things that Mr. Chris has shown her throughout the book, she realized that the true miracle wasn't the beauty of nature, although that is a miracle, but it was the second chance for life and the love of each other. Okay. So there we go, and that's all, folks.
That's all, folks.